Hello there, welcome to the show. It's episode 272. It is the 20th of June 2025. We're one day away from the summer solstice. From Sunday onwards, the night's just getting shorter. Or the days are getting shorter, should I say. Anyway, enough of that depressing stuff. If you can hear stuff going on in the background here, it's because I've got fans full blast, I've got windows open. We are in the UK experiencing what we call a heat wave, what most people call just, spring. But it's very warm here, so we are we're all melting a little bit over here in the UK. But we'll get through this. We'll get through. Welcome to the show. Welcome to everyone that's in the chat, wherever you're watching from, whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube. Of course, that's the main one. Or Facebook Live. We're across all three of those. You can chat to us through the various chat windows on those platforms. We see everything coming in. Before we get to the meat of the show and our guests, and of course the news topics, because we do have some news topics this week, let me first of all just remind you very kindly, if you haven't already, give us a like, comment either in the chat, or if you're watching after the fact, you can comment in the sections below. Give us a subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button and ding the bell if you want to get notifications, or not if you don't. And share us to anyone else that you think might enjoy watching this show every Friday evening or afternoon or morning, depending on where you might be. You can support us in many ways over at Patreon. We're going to be talking a little bit about our Patreon channel a little later, because we've got some cool new stuff on there, so we'll introduce that in a little while. But if you subscribe to that, your contribution goes to the upkeep and running of the show, which of course costs quite a bit of money these days, and you get free stuff. It's a simple exchange of we give you things, you help keep the show on the air. That's how it works. You can also do that with YouTube channel memberships. So if you want to join the YouTube channel, you can do so. Again, both platforms, minimum I think is $2 a month. You can cancel at any time, you can start up at any time. It's entirely up to you. We're flexible. If you want to donate more, you can donate more, but we don't require it. But we love you if you do. So thank you very much indeed. There are two ways that you can support us. The other way, of course, is you can support us over at our merchandise store, which we have many products. I'm wearing one at the moment. I don't know if you can see. It says, Frankie says, watch Pro Synth Network. Very 80s style. And those are available on the store, along with lots of other t-shirt designs and cool things like big 32-ounce water bottles that you can put ice in, and it keeps your drink really, really nice and cool. Built-in straw and everything, so it's really very, very handy. Not made out of metal. I want to sample this, by the way. Listen to this. That's not. I'm going to sample that. Make an instrument out of it. Stick that on the Patreon. Why not? So yeah, you can get all of that stuff there. And again, we get a little bit off the top of each sale to help keep the channel going. So thank you very much indeed. If you've bought something, and if you have bought something, if you've bought an item of clothing or a water bottle or a bikini or the little neckerchief things that we do, take a picture of you wearing or using said items, and we'll show those on the show. So if you do buy something, do let us know. Send us a picture in to you can either send it to rob@prosynthnetwork.com, or you can send it to prosynthnetwork@gmail.com. Either of those work. Please send us your pictures, or you can just upload them to our Facebook page and just share them there. That'd be fantastic. We are, of course, across all the social media networks as well. We predominantly congregate in Facebook because that's where old people tend to go, apparently, so my kids tell me. But we're also on Blue Sky, Twitch, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and of course YouTube as well. So if you do social media, that's where you can find us. But as I say, Facebook is probably the most active of those. I think that's pretty much everything. We will, of course, be mentioning later on in the show the Alan R. Perlman Foundation. That's their web address right there. There is a very good reason for us mentioning them. And if you want to donate, all you got to do is just stick the word donate after that slash alanrperlmanfoundation.org/donate. And you can donate to a very worthy cause, or you can do something else, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. So there we go. That's, I think, all of the housekeeping out of the way. We've got some very special but regular guests, and we always love to have these guys on to talk about their latest thing. But before we do that, let's bring in Mr. Late Book, I think, is what we're going to call him today.
Oh,
Hello.
right.
Yeah,
Do you know what? I was
looking sheepish.
I was in here at 5:30.
And you fell
I was
asleep?
still late.
Only you.
Yeah, well, you know.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, I've had a day. Yeah, it's warm in the workshop today. Apparently it's warmer tomorrow, which should be interesting. So, yeah, I've been working on the AT. And Fiona has spent 2.5 hours picking which particular shade of 12 different types of gold paint that she's bought, what she's going to spray the Mustang ashtray in.
Oh, right.
So she's had a very productive day as well. Yeah, so
It's a very important part.
it's a very important part. Yes, I agree. It's all part of the restoration.
Indeed.
So, yeah, no, it's been warm, isn't it?
It is. It's a little bit sticky. But never mind. We'll
Not
get
much
through
better
it.
in here, to be honest.
No, exactly. Yeah, we were saying that earlier.
I think this is probably about 4.5 octaves too high at the moment.
Well, yeah, you can turn that. Why just turn it off? I've got nothing on in here. Well, I mean,
I can't help
electricity wise. I had to put clothes on to do the show.
it. Oh,
Yeah. Well, you see, I'm wearing a t-shirt, but I might not be wearing much
that
else.
might have been an oversight. You know.
Yeah. Or an undersight, yeah. Anyway,
Well,
moving on.
there
Mr. Longhurst, how are you?
Warm.
Yes.
I think best describes the situation in here at the moment. I've got a fan going, so if you hear stuff, I've got noise cancellation, but you might hear stuff breaking through. But that's okay. We've got some good things this week. Last week we had nothing. We managed to run over. This week we've got a lot, and we'll probably run over again.
Although,
Like that.
given the temperatures that we're all experiencing, I think none of us would actually mind if we finished a little early, jumped in a nice cold bath.
I made a discovery earlier as well, which was kind of weird. I had an ice cold pint glass of Guinness before I started the show, but it's 0% alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I still somehow feel like I've had a pint of Guinness. It's really odd.
Ooh,
Your head screws with you. You know, the zero. I'm doing a whole not drinking alcohol thing at the moment for a while, and I still feel like I've had a drink. It's very, very weird.
Psychological.
Yeah.
No, but it is nice. I must say that that Guinness is very nice for a non-alcoholic beer. Anyway, there you go. That's us. That's the panel. But we do have, of course, two very special guests. The first of which is the head honcho of a wonderful company that we know and love, and we frequently have on the show. And of course, every time they put something out, they very graciously give up their time, a couple of hours of their day, to come on here and tell us all about it. So let me first of all introduce the one and the only Dan Goldstein. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, hi. I'm very disappointed in my cup. It doesn't make
It doesn't?
any sound that's
Well,
any good.
yeah, I'll
Yeah,
have to
but
say
I'm
that.
good. I'm good. It's a good week. Happy Friday.
As always, whenever I see you, one of the first things I say to you is, great T-shirt, it's a great, I like that one.
It's an art kind of day.
It is indeed, absolutely. And I like orange. Orange is my favourite colour, so it's 2 out of 2.
I believe you can order one of these from the Alan R. Perelman Foundation.
You can,
and they will happily
absolutely.
mail one to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, other than that, are you good, sir?
Good. Yeah, definitely good. As always with the new product release, it's a lot of work, and this one was, as I'm sure Mal will explain in a bit, a whole lot of work, but we're so proud of it, and we're so glad it's out there, and it does seem to have been well received. So,
Indeed.
yes, great way to end a week.
And as always, I have to congratulate you on having one in shot as well, which is very cool.
One of 2 that I own.
Oh, look at 2. I can't even afford 1. But anyway, that's brilliant. Well, obviously we'll come to. I think most people know what we're going to be discussing. But as you mentioned, we are joined by somebody else, and it is the one and only Mal Meehan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Also suitably attired for the event, which is very nice. Also available at the Alan R. Perlman Foundation.
It is indeed. There you go.
There we go. We're doing all the advertising here.
Yep.
How are you, sir, since we last met?
Aged by about 30 years.
Oh, but it's worth it, no?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently so.
Yeah. And you've got, is that...
Well, I've just got a Behringer here.
Oh, that's just a
Downstairs I have a Mark 1.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's sitting on top of this, because I noticed this earlier. This is your, I don't know what you call it. It's your own construction, isn't it? It's got a computer inside. And
This was a pandemic project. And I really wanted to create like a self-contained playable synthesizer I could play all my VSTs with. And then, Arturia stole the idea.
So that really is kind of a prototype Astrolab, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Basically,
Yeah. I had a similar story once. When my dad used to own a restaurant, and I would go over there at the weekends, and we would have dinner, and I'd always go to the bar and get the drinks, and I'd have my Coca-Cola, but I'd always want to spice it up a little bit, and because he couldn't see into the bar, I'd always tip a liqueur or something, just a little something to give it a little kick. And I found the best one was De Kuiper Cherry Brandy. And I thought in 1982, I think it was, that I'd invented this thing called Cherry Coca-Cola, because in the UK, we didn't have Cherry Coke. It wasn't a thing. A couple of years later, of course, Coca-Cola come out and say, hey, we've got Cherry Coke. And I'm like, oh, I invented that. But no, apparently I didn't.
No cease and desist letter.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. I was no threat to the Coca-Cola Corporation. But anyway, there we go. So we've got everyone in the house, full up, 5 people on screen. This is good. And of course, we've got the guys from Cherry Audio in, because they've gone and done something again. And it's rather good, as it always is. And so, well, let's just give it the proper video introduction. Here we go. Okay, that's
Cool.
a nice little intro video. Who did the music on that one? Hands up.
That's James Terrace, right?
That was
so.
Bless him. What a guy he was. We hang out at Super Booth. He's a lovely guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah,
James
Terrace,
Terrace, one of the sound designers as
many
well.
years.
Before
That's a
we
great track.
before we dive into that, I just noticed we've got a brand new member. Tanith Valakwa has become a YouTube member. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. We really appreciate that. One of our admins, Andrew Brooks. It's tradition. Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for your £5 donation. That's appeared twice. I don't know whether you've done that twice or whether you've given us a tenner. If you want a refund, tough. And of course, Bostic 247 for the air conditioner fund.
Oh, boy.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could do with one of those. I did actually look, I must admit, I did look at one of those kind of portable air conditioners, but it just looked like too much of a hassle.
No, I
It
have
wasn't
one here.
cheap. Oh, you got one there, yeah?
Yeah. in the
Is
back
it,
there.
is it good?
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because you
the
can't
thing is-
open the windows, can you?
I can't open
What?
the windows here, no.
No,
But
and he
that's not a
can't open the
problem.
windows either because of the cats.
Exactly. I've got cats that have to stay indoors because we've got
Yeah.
a big major road at the back of the house. And
And I
they're
can't
stupid
open the
and
windows
black.
because of Lily.
Well, exactly, yeah. Flying husky.
Because she'd steal a car and...
Yeah, that too.
Terrible dog.
But yeah,
Terrible.
no, maybe I'll check one out and see. I'll have a see if the funds, the Puricelli funds, not the PSN funds, can stretch to one of those. Anyway, ODC 2800, and I pronounced that correctly because Robert kept telling me every email. And by the way, it's pronounced ODC 2800. Yes, got it. So there it is, the ODC 2800. Of course, we know what it's based on, but of course, it's not authorized or anything like that by companies that would maybe kick up a fuss if it wasn't. But it's celebrating 100 years of the legacy of Alan R. Perlman. Of course, we had Dina on the show a few weeks ago, kicking off that year worth of celebration. This is a look at that face in the corner there. Look at that. Celebrating 100 years with this wonderful version of course, ARP's Model 2800, which was, of course, known as the Odyssey. All three versions have been replicated in this. That means that you get all the filter choices from the different revisions. So you've got the Mark 1, which are lovingly known as the white face, and you have the Mark II, which is black and gold, and the Mark III, which I think Anthony Marinelli calls the Halloween version because it's black and orange. And it's my personal favourite because
My
it's got
favorite
orange in it.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lovely, lovely recreation, but of course it's much more than a recreation because it's added loads of things. So let's first of all, before we get into the design and the visual looks of the UI, which of course Mal is responsible for these days, Dan, just tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced. What kind of got you to do this? Was it just purely the celebration of the centenary, or was this always going to be on the cards? Tell us more about ODC.
Yeah, well, we talked to Dina last year. We knew that this big event was coming up. And of course, we've always been a big supporter of the Eleanor Perelman Foundation. And we wanted to do something special. And there's nothing more special than the ARP Odyssey. It was Alan Perelman's masterpiece, and certainly the most popular and most beloved ARP synth. But it had to be a Cherry audio synth. And to do the Odyssey, to take on something like the Odyssey, we felt we just had to take it to another place. So we started out with, well, there are 3 different versions of the Odyssey. Let's model all 3 of them. Let's add everything that you could possibly imagine adding to an Odyssey while still keeping it as an Odyssey. So we took it to all sorts of places that were entirely possible with the Odyssey's analog circuitry. We added polyphony, we added a third VCO, we added a second LFO, we turned the 2 envelopes into complete ADSR envelopes, quantized tuning. We added low pass, band pass, and high pass modes to the filter. Again, all proper, analog versions for the 3 different filters. Gain compensation to the Mark II and Mark III filters because they're the 4-pole filters where when you turn up the resonance, you kind of lose the signal. So we added optional gain compensation, which kind of turns it into 5 different filters. Poly aftertouch, tons of new modulation sources, including modulating any of the 3 oscillators with any of the other oscillators for audio rate modulation. What we call smart portamento, which is basically the CS80's portamento logic, which is the coolest portamento that's ever been on a polysynth. Mal's killer arpeggiator from the Yellow Jacket release that we did, and just a ton of stuff. In fact, we made a list of all the things that we added to it, and it's 2 pages long and just goes on and on and on. But it's all true to the original analog circuitry of the Odyssey. We just expanded it in every way imaginable, and then of course we tacked on a really great new effects section, which is Mal's design, and there's some really neat things in there. There's a dual phaser, which we've never done before. There's a dual flanger and chorus, which is really cool because the flanger and chorus run simultaneously and you could blend them together. And just, like I say, especially with the poly aftertouch, it just becomes everything an Odyssey is and so much more. And also a ton of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is quite obvious that a lot of work has gone into this. Let me just see if I can bring this up onto the screen. Let's see if it will do this here. So let me go there. No, I don't want to do. What am I doing there? It's the heat. I'm going to blame the heat. Everything that goes wrong today, I'm blaming the heat.
I believe it.
Here we go. So this should bring this up on screen, right? There we go. There she is. You look at it and instantly my mind is saying this is definitely wider than a real Odyssey, but that's because you've crammed so much extra bits in here. But it does look very, it's instantly familiar. So if you know your way around one of these things, you're not going to be getting lost any time at all. On the left hand side, you mentioned that you've got the arpeggiator section just over there, and then over here you've got the aftertouch section where you can assign the levels of aftertouch to the filter cutoffs and the LFO rates and so on. Over here in the filter section, you've got your frequency and resonance, but you've also got this switch here which you can then switch to number 2 and number 3. So the interface changes to match the revision and of course the filter change. But what I do like is that you can lock the UI. So if you like the white UI, you can still switch between them, but you can stop that change happening, which is a small but a very neat little touch. And there is the gain compensation there just to the right, so it applies to the second and third revisions. And there's all this other stuff. We can get really into that. And you've got these little controls here for VCO drift and VCF drift. There's lots of stuff going on here. But Mal, I want to bring you in here. This little bit down the bottom here, this is interesting. This is new.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about this.
So one of the things that I've always had a problem with is that on a lot of synths you have to switch panels to get into the effects section. So you can't really, design a sound and also design the effects sounds on the same page. So one thing that I'm kind of working towards is to produce a platform that we can do that. You can have both the sound engine and the effects engine all on the same screen.
Yeah.
So for this one, what we've done is we have a footer, and the footer allows you to control all the effects in keyboard mode.
Yeah.
So you can control the mix amounts of each effect. You control the ons and off of the effect. You can solo an effect, and you can also apply positive and negative modulation from the separate modulator. And of course, if you click on the effect button, you get the full effects. And so now we have all these nice new effects, and we have an independent effect modulator. So you can, you've got multiple modulations happening, so you can have a different, modulation speed for all the effects than you can on the actual sound engine. And the idea is that, I probably shouldn't talk about future stuff, but the idea is that we should develop this, and this will become, something.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great idea because, as you say, you don't need to switch away from the main screen to see what you've got going on,
right?
And you're able to make those changes. It's very, and then say when you want to get into the weeds, then you just click a button and there you go, you're back into that.
And up above, you have the hide extra tab in the menu bar, so you can get rid of the keyboard in that section completely and just have a rack if you're short on screen space.
Yeah. Very clever stuff. I guess that's why you pay him loads of money, eh, Dan?
We love it. We love the effects design. And as Mal's kind of hinting at, we are working at not only having that concept in future instruments, but expanding it and kind of standardizing it as a Cherry Audio approach to effects. It's very cool.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun to work with.
I do like that about certain developers, where after a while they get their own language, their own design language, and then every instrument of theirs you can instantly get into it without getting lost with it. So it's a great thing to do, and it's really nice to see that making it into the design. Were there any particular challenges with this one, Mal? Because I mean, from a design perspective, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, the Odyssey's user interface is pretty simple and straightforward, which is one of its great attractions. The way that Alan designed it and used colors to link functionality together. Did you have was there any major challenges in coming up with this design?
The challenges weren't in the design, because as you said, the Odyssey actually has its own design language. A lot of synths don't really, they're laid out as the parameters are laid out, and they're not necessarily designed. But one thing about the ARP synths is there is actually some thought to the design. There's a language. There's the slider caps are color coded to the sections, so you can tell which is affecting what. I mean, the main issue with this one is like, I model everything in 3D. So this, when I start a project, you lay out the fascia, and then you put that into your 3D app, and then you model the whole 3D. And of course, that's great, and that takes a lot of time. But now you've got 3 of them, right? So, that was the main challenge on this one, was just the sheer amount of work and just the amount of assets. I mean, there is probably thousands of assets in this synth. So you have to keep on top of managing all that. And of course, as much, and this is where the design comes in, because if you basically did 100% accurate fascias for each of the 3 different versions, and then you were to switch between them, things would jump around. Yeah, because, obviously, they're not thinking about the 2820 when they're designing the 2800, right?
Yeah.
So the key thing really was to make it look like it's 3 different instruments, 3 different revisions, but when you switch between them, things aren't like moving around, and that's probably the hardest thing in this. So it's a combination of basically melding all the 3 interfaces into the one interface, but still have it look like, when you switch out, the different revisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan, tell me, Mark Barton was the DSP guy behind this. Again, he's done a work on a number of your instruments. From a like a sound engine design perspective, were there any big problems that you came across, or is the ARP a pretty straightforward thing to model?
Oh, well, so with any synthesizer, the filter is the heart and soul of the instrument.
Yeah.
So when we did the Yellow Jacket, when we did our emulation of the Wasp, so much time goes into comparing the hardware Wasp to the software and making sure that at different resonant levels and different cutoffs that everything matches. And, I think any plugin designer that is any good will tell you that the filter is so critical to emulating a synth. Well, just like Mal said, with having to do 3 different graphic layouts for this instrument, Mark had to do 3 different filters, and they're very different filters. They're not subtly different. It's part of what's great about the Odyssey is the Mark I is a 2-pole filter, the Mark II is a ladder filter, the Mark III is ARP's own 4-pole design. They all have very different responses, and Mark Barton is just the king of filter modeling. And there was nobody better to take on this particular project than him. Actually, one of the things I'm so proud of with the ODC product is that we got to involve so much of the synth community and honestly quite a bit of the Pro Synth Network community.
Yeah.
Dr. Mike Metley wrote the documentation for this.
Who
Mike Martin did the release presentation.
Yes.
We had Michael Whalen do a great video playing the song Chameleon, Herbie Hancock's Chameleon. And we all got to do this for Dina, to help support her foundation. So it just, and then I think you saw as well, we even had some sounds from your own Andrew here. So
Indeed.
It just felt like everybody came together to help with this project and to help the Alan R. Perelman Foundation, and I love that. This was a lot of work. It's a big instrument. We added a lot to it. We made it very, very flexible, but everybody just stepped up and did what needed to be done to make this happen, and it feels like it feels like more than just a Cherry Audio instrument. It feels like really a love letter to ARP and how we all feel about ARP instruments. They are fantastic instruments.
That's Absolutely. A great way of putting it. Love letter to ARP.
Yeah.
That's I think that's pretty much what the feeling was from everyone that I've spoken to that got involved. It is a love letter to ARP and to Alan and to Dina. So great job. Really good job.
Yeah.
And thank you, Andrew, for being a part of the project. That was a lovely surprise.
Can I tell you about that just quickly?
Yeah, please.
How that...
Go on, if you must.
Yeah, I know. Mal, The interface is astonishing. I've got. Let me just see. Can I bring this up? Hang on a moment. That is the original. I think it's the Mark II, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mark II, yeah.
That's the Mark II. Look at how much. There's nothing there. I mean, there is, but there's not. And then when you let me just bring myself up again. Yeah. So when you sent this over to have a look, and you didn't have the documentation ready and all that stuff, and I just looked at it and thought, well, we'll have a play. And it really, here's the thing. I know my name is underneath this, and that may seem like I'm just bigging it up because my name's there and I've been paid. I haven't been paid a penny. Didn't want to be. This was just one of those instruments where as soon as I got it, I just started playing with it, and presets were falling out of it. Presets were just falling out of it. And as soon as you switch between the different filter modes, it is like having a completely different synth. And the sonic width of it, the degree to which you can change sounds and create different sounds that you wouldn't have heard before because it's poly, or even with mono, with unison, it just all fell out. And I got to thank you for this. I think this is the best emulation that I've seen for a long time. A really, really good emulation. So Mal, you did a great job. Dan, you too, matey, and the filters. Well,
Indeed.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah, when we do these projects, and I know I say this a lot, but when we do these projects, they are internal code that we live with for many, many months, and very few people get to see what we're building until we start the process of slowly getting people involved prior to release. But it's always such a great feeling when you guys, when the public, when people start to see what we've been working on, because we want to talk about it, we want to shout about it, we want to say, oh boy, I can't wait till you see what's coming next, and we can't. So that is I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
I do have one other observation, and this is again for Mal. I found myself with this in particular going to bed and thinking about the front panel, and thinking about how if I just add this in here, if I put if I route this waveform through to here and then use the aftertouch to increase the sound here and change, I was thinking about patches very visually whilst I'm going to bed, and I'm waking up, sort of jumping out of bed, wanting to come down and do it.
Right.
Because I've got a very clear idea in my head visually of exactly what I'm after. And that's not stimulated by hearing it, but just by seeing it. So it's a fantastic It's a fantastic interface.
Well, I mean, I think that was one of Alan's key things with the sliders, is that you can actually visually see, the sound. I mean, I have to make a confession. I've probably owned 4 or 5 Odysseys, and they've never really gelled with me very, very much. I'm very much a Moog kind of guy, right? So
me too, by the way.
Yeah, and I have to say that in doing this, I downstairs I have an old Mark I, which is in need of Kent, and then I have a Korg, the little mini one they did, a little 88% one.
Yeah.
And it really brought me back, because I haven't played them in ages. And that, what I love about doing this is that you really get to revisit a synth, and you really get to learn things that perhaps as a casual player you didn't pick up on. And when you add the extra features, when you add the extra VCO or the extra, the full ADSR, it really starts ticking, right? You're thinking, oh, I can do this now and I can do that. So that was, for me, it's like revisiting an old friend that perhaps you haven't talked to in a long while, and that was really enjoyable doing this.
Yeah.
The 2600 was always the one which I turned to first, rather than the Odyssey. But this has caused me to go back and think, the Odyssey, yeah. It's a great instrument. It's a really, really good thing you've done there. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go on to the next question, I need to thank the one and only Mike Martin, who, of course, did a fantastic introductory video at launch. It was really engaging and interesting and informative. Hats off to you, Mike, and many, many thanks for becoming a YouTube channel member for us. That's an honour for us to have you there with us. Of course, we've got another member, Steve Sonus Lucius. I hope I've said that, or is it Sonus Lucius? Or Lucis? I don't know. Steve. There you go. Steve is now a member. Thank you, Steve. You'll find him lurking in most chats around the synthesizer community. There was a question here from Nick Howes, who is our question master. From a coding perspective, do you find that inline DSP gives you efficiency gains versus using external plugins of a similar nature?
Yeah, okay. That's a very technical question. Yes, there are definitely things that you can do to process multiple samples simultaneously that you can't do with having an instrument and a second plugin to run it through. But modern day computers are very fast and very efficient. So it's not obviously, people can write songs using 20 instances of a Cherry Audio synth and all the effects they want, and it's not going to slow down your modern M3 or M4 or whatever processor. So a lot of the times, we worry less. We seem to worry less these days about every possible efficiency gain, because the computers are just getting really, really good these days.
Yeah, that's very
good question though.
I'll keep you up for this next one again from Nick, and it is a technical one, but actually I think this is kind of an interesting. What is the dev environment that you use? And I'll come to you, Mal, as well, because I'd like to know what you use to design the graphics. But from a under the hood perspective, can you tell us what dev environment you use, and do you have a pool of pre-existing resources or libraries that you can bring in, or is everything bespoke for each instrument?
So from a these are really technical questions. These are good. So we use Xcode on the Mac and Visual Studio on Windows to do the actual code development. And maybe Mal can talk a little more about this, but as far as the visual layout, we have tools that we've developed at Cherry Audio for many years now that we use to do our layout and graphics. They're all, very, very bespoke tools that we've been making more and more and more powerful as we've built bigger and more powerful instruments. As for DSP, the ODC is, I believe, our 33rd synthesizer that we've released, which is mind-blowing. We have certainly lots and lots of DSP that we've developed over the years for every single product. So there's certainly some bits that we like to use when they're appropriate, because we've got really good things like ADSRs, things like that. But yeah, every instrument, when it comes to the filters, when it comes to whatever's unique about that instrument, it has to be kind of written from scratch to match the hardware, or at least customized in all sorts of different ways. Because if you just take generic oscillators and generic filters, it's not going to sound like the hardware.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's a lot of customization that goes into every single instrument that we do.
Mal, from a visual design perspective, I mean, you start with a blank page, should we say? What are you using to come up with these user interfaces?
Well, I'm old school. I'm just old, so I do things on paper with a pen,
right? Okay.
And I lay stuff out initially, and then it goes into Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and that's where you do all the sort of markings, all the slider markings, and the markings around knobs, and all the text and what have you, and that goes to a group of people, and they yay and nay, and it goes back, and I fix that again. And when we get to a point where it's kind of we're good to go, that goes into Cinema 4D, which is a 3D modeling and rendering package.
Yep.
And I'll model the whole entire. So what you don't see very often is you don't see the fact that I've modeled all the connections at the back, all the side panels, the rubber feet underneath. You know,
They're all there.
It's all there, like literally. You know, and so we use some of that for our release videos. You know, you'll see it moving across the screen or what have you, and that gets rendered out. Now the difficult part is that with 3D, every single slider cap, every single 2-3 position switch is a unique feature, right? So, you know, on the Odyssey, you've got all these sliders. Well, that's not just one graphic per top, per slider. Each slider has its own graphic because the perspective changes as you get to the corners, the edges. So everything has to basically be rendered separately. So you're rendering the base case, and then you're getting rid of the case, and you're rendering all the component tops, the sliders, the switches, but you have to include the reflections of the case in those sliders. So it gets very complex. It's a multi-part process, and all that goes into After Effects, and it's cleaned up in After Effects, which is an animation compositing package. And then that gets spit out into all the individual sliders and switches. That they then go into Photoshop and are color corrected in Photoshop, and eventually spat out as PNG files from Photoshop, which then goes to our dev people and goes into our package. So it's a lot of work, and when you have to do that 3 times for the one synth, it's a lot of work.
I mean, you are essentially, albeit in software, you are building the physical instrument, but of course in this case you're building it 3 times. But you're building so you're building the panels and the chassis and everything. You're not building the boards, obviously, but you're still, you're pretty much effectively building.
And I mean, I've got 35 plus years of 3D stuff. I've done I've done product design for everything, electric kettles to ejection seats. And so, when I'm designing the switch, I'm actually designing the switch. So it's you could go to a component company and buy that switch. That's the detail in the modeling.
Very cool indeed. What we haven't made a huge mention of, and we ought to, is the fact that this is being released and is going to be benefiting the wonderful Alan R. Perlman Foundation. Dan, can you just tell us a little bit about how buying this instrument through Cherry Audio Store is going to benefit the Alan R. Perlman Foundation?
We'll be donating, as we've done with other instruments in the past, a portion of our sales to the Alan R. Perlman Foundation. You have to buy the instrument from cherryaudio.com for that to happen. And then in addition, at the time of purchase, people can voluntarily make donations to the Alan R. Perlman Foundation as well. And I checked just before the show, and I'm happy to say hundreds of dollars of donations have come in since Tuesday, just from our wonderful customers who have thrown a few extra dollars in at the point of purchase. And it really does add up. I don't know if this gets really spoken about a lot, but the last couple years have been a pretty challenging time for a lot of companies in the musical instrument space. It's just been a tough time in a lot of ways, and I know that there has been less and less money available from companies to foundations like the Alan R. Perlman Foundation. So it is just it's so important that if we want these things to continue to exist, that we support them and do everything we can to support them, because these are nonprofits. The Art Foundation's a nonprofit. Dina is working entirely off of donations, and it helps. Every bit helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And if you were too keen to get your hands on this and you didn't buy it from the Cherry Audio website, don't worry, you can still donate. There's the web address on the screen right now. I believe it's also in the description below the video, so you can just click on that And you can support the foundation in a number of ways. That's the real basic raw way of doing it, is to just donate some cash. That's fantastic. But of course, you can buy merchandise from the store, as demonstrated here by the shirt that you see Dan wearing, and of course the shirt that you see Mal wearing. All of those are available over at the Alan R. Perlman Foundation's online store. You can do all sorts of things. You can even, let me just switch to this tab, go and visit the website and check out all of the centennial activities that are going to be going on. There's lots of content. Of course, we had the EMIAP celebration a couple of weeks ago, and there's other things that are going to be going on, as we spoke about with Dina. You can go and check that show out. It's only 2 or 3 weeks ago. But there's going to be art that's going to be featured at NAMM's Museum of Making Music, and lots of other things besides. But you can go there to the foundation website, and say you click on the shop and go to ARP Store, then you'll see all of these wonderful goodies. There's calendars, there's apparel, there's sound sets from Alex Ball, who, by the way, put out a great video yesterday on how OMD made Enola Gay. It's super interesting, properly nerdy, but really, really good fun. Go and watch that. There's music you can buy. There's they've got their own drinks canisters. Go out and buy one of those.
What do they sound like?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have a drinks canister sound off or something, or maybe we'll build an instrument of all of these different sound. Yeah. We'll give it a go. Yeah, and there's loads of great posters that you can hang on your wall. Lots of stuff. So please do, if you can, go and donate or buy or support the foundation in any way you possibly can, because, as Dan rightly pointed out, the situation for companies as well as charities and non-profits is pretty tough. And what with all that's going on in the world, we need to help these people as much as we can, because it's a case of use it or lose it. And these two organizations, the Alan R. Perlman Foundation, of course Bob Moog Foundation as well, they do great work, they do great outreach work, and they keep the memories and the legacies of their the people that the organizations are named after going long into the future. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. Also, Steve has just reminded me that we should be giving a shout out for the Centennial sound sets as well, which you can buy from Cherry Audio through the page there, of course, made by our very own James Dyson. Maybe this is the point where we tell people that literally about an hour and a half ago, we at ProSynth Network put a bank of sounds for the ODC 2800 up onto our Patreon page. Let me just see if I can just find that. Here we go. Let's throw this onto the screen and just take that off of there. Come on. There we go. Hide the comment and bring this into the screen. Just about there. There we go. So we've got the ProSynth Network ODC 2800 presets. These are available exclusively through our Patreon and YouTube channel members programs, should we call them? So if you signed up to either of those, and we have had a few members sign up today on the YouTube channel and a few over on the Patreon, you get these thrown in. This is part of the package, and these sounds have been created again by our very own Andrew Longhurst, and also James Dyson has contributed. Apparently it's about a 50-50 split in there. Some really cool presets, so you can add to your collection of sounds to your ODC 2800 right there, completely free of charge.
Completely free of charge. It is completely free of charge, but we would ask, if you download them and you like them, please consider giving £1, $1, $5, $10, $20 to the foundation, the Alan R. Perlman Foundation. They really do need help. They really do, and we need to support them any way we can. So we'll probably be throwing some more up at some other point. But if you like them, donate something to Dina. Do
Absolutely.
do. We love you for it.
Another thing we'd also like to bring to your attention is this. Now we've got a Synthspirations this week, which we'll play in about 10 minutes time, and that Synthspirations is from this guy. You know him as Viral Beats. Again, he hangs around in a lot of the synth forums. He has his own channel. Go and check Viral Beats' YouTube channel out. Some great content on there. He's one of his favourite synthesizers, as it is one of mine, is the Arturia Mini Freak, and completely out of the blue, a few days ago, he got in touch with me and said, "I want to give you guys a discount on this new package of 140 presets for the Mini Freak." He was going to just give us 50% off, which is super generous. But in actual fact, he said, no, it feels better to give your members 100% off. So if you are a Patreon member or a YouTube channel member, go and check out your pages, whichever one you're on. If you're on YouTube channel membership, just go to the posts tab. So go to the ProSynth Network channel, click on the posts tab, and you will see the post. And in that post is a code, and you take that code and you enter it in at checkout, and it will wipe 100% off the price. Same with the Patreon page. The code is on there. Stick it in at checkout. You get them completely free. We cannot thank Viral Beats enough for donating those to the cause, which is super, super nice. And this just in the last few days, our Patreon and YouTube channel stuff has really taken off. Of course, last week we brought this into existence, the ProSynth Network soundboard, which is in decent sampler mode, and has got loads of classic quotes and quips from punchlines and what's the other word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's all of this stuff that me and Andy and Kent and Ty's in there as well, and Metlay's in there as well. You can just trigger these sounds off, and you can just sit there and have a giggle. But we would like someone to make a piece of music with it. That would be rather cool. However, I did have it pointed out to me when I launched this that I was missing one very, very famous punchline from our very own Ben Simpson. And so that has now been added into the instrument. So if you've already downloaded it, just go back and re-download it, and you'll have the additional sample at the end of the key span that you see there highlighted in blue. It has been added in, and it couldn't have happened at a more appropriate time, because today, everyone, is Ben Simpson's birthday. Ooh. And I don't know how young he is, but he's still a little whippersnapper. He's still going strong. Don't forget, if you are sort of living around in the north of England, you can go and see Electromantics, which is Ben's amazing, and I mean that. They are so good, so very authentic. Electromantics is their name, and they play regularly around the north of England. They do sometimes come a little bit further south, but as you can see in some of those pictures there, they always get an excellent turnout. They're a great live act. So happy birthday, Ben Simpson. Go and watch Electromantics, and Ben is now forever immortalised in the PSN soundboard, which is available, as I said, to all our ProSynth Network Patreon members as well as YouTube channel members. Don't forget, though, this will be made completely free of charge to everyone in about 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. We said we'd give all our members a month's exclusive access, but then everyone will be able to take part and use that. And again, I need to say a massive thank you to Steve Elbows, and also to my friend Tracy Collins of Indigenous, who helped me just tweak a little couple of bugs out of that. So it's all decent sampler. It's all completely free of charge. So yeah, go and have some fun with that, and then make something with it and let us know. Send it in. We'd love to play it on the show. Massive thank you to the wonderful Amanda Chowdhury. We need to get Amanda. We keep saying we need to get Amanda on the show. Cat Synth TV. Every Cherry Audio release, every Arturia release, she puts these great demos and tuition type style videos. They're really, really good. But thank you ever so much. Of course, you can see she's already a channel member, but she's donating. Thank you to you for that. Right, I think we're getting close to the top of the first hour of the show. I'm going to give myself and everyone else a little breather so they can go and get a refill for drinks or avail of themselves of the facilities, because we're going to play our Synthspirations. We didn't have one last week, but we've got a great one for you this week. As I said before, it's Viral Beats. He gave us that wonderful 100% discount on his latest Mini Freak pack. He's also supplied us with his Synthspirations, and I could listen to Cyrus's voice all night long. It's just that wonderful, lovely, soft. It's very nice. But he's also got some incredible inspirations. And I sat and watched this this afternoon, and I've been frantically adding things to my Apple Music list to go and listen to this stuff. So sit back and enjoy the inspirations from Viral Beats. We'll be back with Dan and Mal straight after this, and we'll be digging into the news. So enjoy this and have fun. Well, what am I doing there? It's already started. There we go. Right, let's make this full screen. I'll turn everybody's mics off. Here we go. This is Viral Beats Inspirations.
With me being the younger guy in the group, I was born in 1981 after a lot of these changes took place. Yes was my dad's all-time favorite band, but the group disbanded the year I was born. Now, Genesis was his second favorite band, but they changed their sound the year prior. This is where Jethro Tull comes in, which replaced Genesis as his second favorite group. Of course, there was stuff like War and Tom Waits, Kate Bush, who we all loved, but I didn't really hear much of their stuff around the house back then. As the music changed, my parents both followed along with it, and a lot of what I heard was stuff like Rick Wakeman and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, who also disbanded in the late 70s. So here are the ones that are most prevalent in my memory. Now, this is a record that I always saw around the house, so even though Jethro Tull changed their sound around this time, it was something that my parents enjoyed because it was something that they listened to on a regular basis. Now, this was one of my dad's favorite Genesis albums, and even though I can't recall any particular track, he used to play it all the time, so I figured I'd mention that one too. Gentle Giant was also another favorite of my father's, and you could tell that this was his copy because of the condition that it's in. One of the interesting things about this record is that it was later sampled by MF Doom, and I actually posted that music video on my channel the other day. Another favorite of my father's was Yes Songs, and you could tell that this was his record because of the condition it's in. And yeah, used to hear this a lot, and this is before they broke up. Now, these two were a couple of my dad's favorite Yes records that we used to hear around the house all the time, Close to the Edge and Tales from a Topographic Ocean. This one is familiar to most of you guys, and Friends of Mr. Cairo is the first living memory I have of music. Speaking of John Anderson, I always thought that Friends of Mr. Cairo song was on animation because the cover was also etched into my memory. This one came out in 1982, and the standout song for me is Boundaries. Robbie flashed this album during his Synthspirations episode, but the cover is different. It's a promotional copy, and somebody told me that this cover was used for one of their singles. Then Yes got back together and made their first commercial hit. Owner of the Lonely Heart was such a huge record. There were a couple explosive songs on the album, and my folks played the hell out of it. Even though it was a complete deviation from their older stuff, a lot of people embraced the change. A couple years later came an even bigger album with songs from The Big Chair. Shout was a huge song, but Everybody Wants to Rule the World really defined the 80s. I used to ride my bike around listening to this on a Walkman. Now, that same year came another monumental record from the 80s. You know, the two records that really put a pin on 80s music is this one and the Tears for Fears album. Do I really need to say anything about this record? Now, this was also the year that brought us John Anderson's Christmas album, Three Ships. I grew up with this being played every year as a Christmas tradition. Things really started to change after this. My parents were no longer together, and we moved around for a couple years. For my birthday, my dad sent me a remote control car and Big Generator on cassette. Now, I really tried to love this record, but my tastes were beginning to radically shift during this time. Genesis got back together and put out Invisible Touch, which completely overshadowed Yes in their efforts. Okay, one of the reasons for this hard edit, change in view and tone and voice is because we just pulled this record today just in time to include it here. When we came back to Phoenix, this was the first piece of music my father shared with me. He played the record and I loved it so much he bought the cassette for my Walkman. This album marks a significant turning point because it's the last of really good 80s music that I listened to. This is where it all changed for me. Although synthesizers were still around, they weren't around as much as keyboards, neither made much of a difference from that era anyway. And the most noteworthy change for me came with this album right here. Although I don't have the vinyl yet, I first acquired this album on cassette and have the CD floating around here somewhere. With this cassette tape, more specifically the title track, I discovered what type of music I wanted to produce as an artist. My perception of hip-hop was more focused on New Jack Swing, and this style opened me up to a whole new era. When we finally got cable, I discovered a bunch of artists through Yo MTV Raps. It quickly went from MC Hammer to groups like Public Enemy and Digital Underground. By this time, it seemed to me like synths were becoming a thing of the past. And just like that, synthesizers were back, and in hip-hop production too. Now, this is the record that changed the entire music industry. Anthony Marinelli did a couple of videos on this album going through some of the synths and the melodies used. It's really interesting. You guys should check it out when you get a chance. While they were starting to be used before this, sampling funk and soul records is one thing, but to grab the actual synthesizers used to play a unique melody to go along with the production, this was something else entirely. When that second video hit and Dr. Dre revealed Funkadelic on his t-shirt, I really started researching the music. By the time that third single hit, I had done a little bit of research and was familiar with a few of the samples. So I started getting into funk, soul, and even some jazz. Now this Snoop Dogg record was even more dynamic. George Clinton was actually on the introductory song. I couldn't believe it. One of my favorite songs on this record was actually removed due to copyright infringement and is now back after 30 years. What happened was the record label didn't want to pay the money for sample clearances, but now that Snoop Dogg himself owns the label, it's back on the album. The song in question is Isaac Hayes' The Look of Love. There was even more synthesis used on the Doggy Style album, which led me backwards in discovering all sorts of music. It wasn't long before I started experimenting with psychedelics and listening to music like Pink Floyd. Now this era in my life led me to the Doors, and I spent my high school years listening to just about everything. I actually got to see George Clinton perform on more than one occasion. I also saw Primus live, which brought me to the Brown album. I started going to huge rave parties in the late 90s, and that's where I discovered jungle, drum and bass, and other awesome music that exclusively used hardware synthesizers. Keep in mind that I was also a hip-hop MC at the time, so I would spend hours rapping to all this music during the house parties. A lot of my friends were DJs, so I also did a few raves too. Now back then I would collect hip-hop instrumentals, jungle and drum and bass beats, stuff that I could use at house parties and for mixtapes. Hip-hop was a huge factor at raves, which made for some pretty interesting music. Ice Cube's cousin Del the Funky Homo Sapien was quickly becoming one of my favorites. Here's another couple records that I used to own that were later digitized. This is Meehan FS Hell's Kitchen from 1999. These guys do jungle, drum and bass, and hip-hop with real instrumentation. It's really awesome. I got to see them live after I finished my first studio album. This one here is Deeper Concentration. It's part 2 of a series, and what it is a whole collection of DJs and MCs. You got Mixmaster Mike, Beat Junkies, all kinds of electronic music producers. This is a perfect example of the stuff that I used to collect on vinyl, and Adam F. here actually made a really awesome drum and bass album in 1997. Now, after the Both Sides of the Brain album, Del the Funky Homo Sapien teamed up with Dan the Automator and DJ Kid Koala for what I feel is the absolute best concept album in hip-hop history. This is actually the instrumental version of the album. Now, while I was listening to this album, there was the psychedelic progressive rock band Ween, who also released that year. Now, White Pepper is Ween's 7th album, and it sounded a bit more progressive than its predecessors. It still had that analog psychedelic tone, which was perfect for my father. He became an immediate fan after listening to this album, and so did my mom. As a matter of fact, if you're unfamiliar and enjoy some of these older prog records, you would really love Ween, especially their album The Mollusk. Not too long after the Deltron 3030 album, Gorillaz debuted in 2001, and this group quickly became my favorite. Not only was it the exact fusion of everything I was listening to at the time, but their breakout song actually featured my favorite rapper, which just happens to be Del the Funky Homo Sapien. This was the same year my oldest son was born, and I began to produce my own music rather than simply rap over other people's beats. Next to Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Aesop Rock is my second favorite MC, and this album really stood out to me. Now, another honorable mention here is Radiohead. While I haven't procured any of their vinyl yet, their production style has also been a huge influence. Another thing I want to share with you guys is this drone record that recently came out a few years ago, and we actually looked it up, and this guy is local over here. So for all those wondering why we randomly select BPM range between 60 and 200, this is why. This is why I produce in just about every genre and why I'm so crass with an urban dialect. Now, I may have been born after a time when things changed with a lot of these bands that my parents listened to, but I got to listen to those growing up as well, so that was my major synth influence until gangsta rap, and then that changed everything. Went to the rave stuff, and then the rest is history. So there you have it, folks. Viral beats, synthspirations. Take care, everybody.
These things, I'm not entirely sure what I expected when I kind of randomly said, let's have a feature and we'll make it about what inspired people. And what I'm finding is that I'm learning about music that either I just kind of skipped over or just didn't know about. And I'm going back to these things and just, right, okay, add that to my playlist, add that to my playlist. I'm going to listen to this because if people I respect and know in the community like this music, there's probably a good chance that I will as well. So Viral Beats, here's a coincidence. There's one in there that you mentioned the Gorillaz. I'm a huge Gorillaz fan. Just as I was watching that video, there was a knock on the door. And that arrived, which is the reissue of their very first release before the albums. So that was quite a nice little coincidence. Was there anything there that anybody saw that they either agreed wholeheartedly with, or will be going out and checking on their streaming services or whatever?
Matt looks like he's got go.
No, I thought the path from progressive rock like Yes and right? Genesis to gangster rap is it's a neat story.
Yeah,
that's a pretty wild ride.
Absolutely. Mal, anything there that floated your boat?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge prog fan, so all that was good. But I also love funk, so I love Parliament and Clinton and Bootsy and all that sort of stuff. So that really floats my boat.
But don't you think that the connection between prog and funk is a lot stronger and a lot closer than a lot of people maybe give credit for, because a lot of funk is incredibly progressive.
Right.
It's not rock. It's got a bit more of a groove to it, but they're weird time signatures, weird instrumentations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you take rock and you add some jazz, and you take soul and you add some jazz, you end up with the same sort of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think what was really cool there was the how he swung into Jack B, that whole area, because I was brought up on prog, that's where I come from as well, but I ended up being a house sort of engineer stroke producer-y thing for a while for Rhythm King Records, so all of that stuff, and then going out to raves and listening to what was going on, and all the stuff that's coming over from the States and people over here doing things. And it all does just bleed in. And then one day I heard, what was it? What's the freaking album? DJ Shadow.
Oh yeah,
the very first DJ Shadow album. Someone just walked into my studio one day, put some headphones on my ears from a Walkman, and I went, what the? So, and all of these, there is commonality between all of these things. I can trace a line back from today, from all the stuff that's going on today, back to Bill Bruford and back to Charlie Parker, and through all of the stuff, Chick Corea, all of that. So I think that's a really, 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 really good inspiration. Well done. Well done.
Watching that today, I thought, I completely skipped over all of the hip hop and the R&B that I really, really like. I mean, stuff like Gemini and Danger Mouse and the Avalanches, and then of course all of that 90s R&B. I've got a real soft spot for all of that stuff.
I was going to ask Kent, because I know Kent's a great fan of hip hop, and we've not heard from him at all so far about this particular ODC 2800. How are you, Kent? What are you thinking?
I was trying to break my record. I haven't spoken for over an hour.
You just sit there.
Well, you were asking people questions, and then you go, and then it's just me, and then you go, so, Nan. And like, okay, I'll sit over here.
You got to be more forthcoming.
Hey, look, I'll tell you one thing that's happened.
Go on.
Hans has passed out from the heat in here. He said, look, you all right, mate? No. He doesn't look well.
Dear, oh dear. Whilst we were watching that, apparently it transpired that somebody has used the ProSynth Network soundboard. Do you want to see it?
Go on.
It is only should actually be billed the Viral Beats episode. It was Viral Beats that did it. Have a listen. I actually haven't heard this. I just found it. I'm going to play it. Could be good. It could be awful. Here we go. Let's get controversial. Let's have a good old get off my lawn.
I think Biscuit thinks we're not doing a very good job this week.
Flawless.
It's like having Robbie in the room.
It really is.
It's like having Robbie in the room after about 6 drinks.
There you go. There you go. He's the first,
There
and
you go.
I hope he won't be the last. I like that. So thank you, Viral Beats. You've beefed up this show when it didn't need beefing up, but there it is. So Viral Beats is the Synthspirations will be available to our Patreon and YouTube channel members as an isolated piece without any advertising, so you can go back and watch that and learn about the music that floated Viral's boat, and maybe you get into it as well. Right, so we've got some news, guys. One of the topics has
Sorry, it
become.
was just something that, that Nick just said. That should put him in the kitchen and then he'll be hands to the dishes.
Oh,
Do you remember the advert?
yes, for hands that do dishes that feel soft as your skin. There is a joke.
Very liquid.
Yeah, but do you remember the joke about the bloke that goes into a restaurant and he says, "I'll have a squid today," and the waiter wheels over this tank with lots of squid in, and he says, "Choose your squid." So he looks around and he sees one lurking in the corner, and it's an odd-looking one. He's got the squid's got a bit of a moustache. He thinks he looks a bit tasty. He says, "I'll have him," and the waiter says, "No, you can't have him." And he said, "No, you said I can have any. Oh, you can't. No, he works here." What do you mean he works here? Well, have you never heard of the mild green hairy lip squid? Anyway, moving
That's
on.
almost as bad as the duck joke.
I know. That will go into.
I do like the duck
soundboard
joke though. I must
addition
admit,
to.
it is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of these news topics has become a little bit more interesting because of the discussion we had pre-show. But we'll come on to that one in just a minute. I think, what should we kick off with? Let's kick off with this one. We'll cut it short there because it does go on a little bit longer than that. But this is the brand new Liven from Sonicware, and we have one here. Here it is. This is the Evoke, and this kind of follows on somewhat from the last one, which was the Ambient Zero, which went down very, very well. And it's an acoustronic. I don't know if that was actually in a word before that. It was acoustronic synthesis. And what they've done is they've taken about 34 samples of acoustic instruments and then about 20 odd different waveforms that you can then blend with each other, along with a couple of noise generators, and you feed it through this backtide processor, which basically is like wavetable scanning backwards and forwards, but it ebbs and flows and gets quieter through it, so it's kind of like a wave, so to speak. And then they spit it out and you can stick it through granular effects, and it sounds I haven't got that properly programmed in there, but it did sound very good when I had it, because I've changed the bank, you twonk.
Make it sound like the advert.
Yeah, try and make it sound like the advert. Here we go.
Sounds like a Casio.
Yeah, it does,
I was
doesn't it?
just gonna say, like a
You can't have an advert like that and then go ding 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 ding.
I know. Oh, what's happened here?
They'll ask for it back, you know.
I know. I've got it in pattern mode. There we go. Pattern mode.
Here we go,
Bank
here we go.
1. Okay. So, are you going to stay in that bank? No, it doesn't want to stay in that bank. Anyway, watch the video. I will be doing some stuff with this
Sold.
later on. But yeah, absolutely. This is. It's very good. It sounds amazing. Mal, I notice you've got an ambient zero behind you.
And I also have a space next to it.
Ah.
How do I do that? This right there.
I know, yeah.
So
amazing.
Fortuitous.
I pre-ordered this.
Yeah. Is this your sort of thing?
Well, I'm getting so little time in the studio, so sometimes I just want to grab a box, and be on the sofa. And so these are great. These are great.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, I know you've got an ambient zero. Your thoughts on
I've
this?
got the ambient zero, and I've bought this. I've already pre-ordered this, so I think I may be getting in the first delivery from the first delivery batch as well, because I got in really quick. Sounds amazing. Sounds good. It's just the kind of thing that will help. Writing on the fly, as Mal says, it's just kind of pick up the box and away you go. Great stuff.
Excellent. Right, I've got it. I figured it out. It just sounds.
You've got your
Got
echo
your echo on.
cancellation or your
I have, haven't I?
noise.
It's
Yeah.
going to sound even worse then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sold again.
Sold again. Right, here we go.
Yeah.
And when somebody plays it and programs it properly, it sounds a little bit like this. And what I found is you can just leave this going in the background. Just chill. Let me just leave it there. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's $239 US, 229 UK, which is exceptionally good value for money. And they've sold the first 100 already. They've managed to secure a second production run. So the first batch is going to go out on June 30th. And they've secured a small second production run ahead of another bigger one that will start shipping on July 4th, I believe, or somewhere around that. Let me just. Why won't this add this to the stage? It's not there. Oh, that's why, because I've still got there. Here you go. This is all going wrong for me. There it is. We'll get there in the end. You see, I have troubles as well. Add to stage. There it is. Sonic Wave Evoke. So yeah, 229 UK pounds. Just a word here that price includes tax and shipping for UK people. So you don't have to worry about paying any import duties or anything other. This is 229. It's a little bit more if you want the power supply thrown in, but you can use these with you can use these with batteries. So power supply is not essential. I think this is probably the best way to describe what it does. It's called the Acoustronic Flux Oscillator. I'd love to know how they came, what the meeting was like when they came up with that one. So you've got these acoustic samples and these harmonic wave generators, and you blend those in after they've been processed through the backtide modulator. It just sounds great. Whatever it is that you do, it sounds amazing. Dan, does this sort of thing float your boat, Dan?
Oh yeah. When I got into synths, it was the Corgem 1 era, and I loved playing the pads. I loved the big digital pad sounds, and I've always loved that kind of ambient sound. And I have to confess, I don't know much about these instruments, but the demos, the sounds that you're making they're the sounds I love.
Yeah.
It's something I think is so cool with synthesizers, going back to that Synthspirations video where, these same instruments that make hip hop music can make these kinds of gorgeous sounds, and just the huge range of genres and styles of music that synths can be played in. I love that. I love that about these instruments.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, I know you bought an Ambient Zero, but you've moved that on.
Yeah, I gave it away, didn't I? Yeah.
Does this maybe?
This one appeals more.
And why would that be?
It's weird. To me, this one sounds more musical than the Ambient Zero did to me.
Mm-hmm.
That said, though, I do have an aversion of working with small boxes.
Right.
This is why all my girlfriends were huge.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah. Although I do appear to have a lot of small boxes, but then again, they are over there, and I haven't touched them in months. So,
Yeah.
however, MIDI in it.
Yeah. Well, this is the
Do
thing.
it that way,
This obviously has full-size MIDI ports, so you can, if you don't like the little clacky keyboard, just plug a MIDI controller in, the way you go. It's got the sync port, so you can synchronize this with other Livens or other instruments that use that connectivity. 3.5-inch audio in and audio out. The audio in on this, I know on some of the Livens, it routes it through the processing. On this one, I don't believe it does, so it's just simply to mix the volume of another instrument in. Built-in speaker, which is obviously not brilliant, but it's fine if you just, like you say, if you're sat down on the, in the front room with this on your lap, or maybe you're in the park, or doing our friend Native VS does, sit on a park bench randomly with a buchla and make music, so you can do all of that. But it's such a very, and they really have simplified the process of the Livens. When they initially came out, they were quite complex and they required overlays. And the Spanish versions actually required underlays as well.
I see what you did there.
See what we did there. And my apologies to our Spanish viewers. That was a terribly crass joke. But they have really taken on board the feedback. They've taken on board feedback and made the interfaces a lot more easier to navigate. And there's lots of commonality between the instruments. But yeah, this one it's just grabbed me.
I actually can't wait to sync this up with the ambient. The ambient I've played around with a bit, but like Ken, I haven't found it terribly musical. I've been waiting for something to pair it with. I've got the ELZ1 and it kind of pairs okay with that. I think those three boxes together, the ELZ1 Play, the Ambient Zero, and the Evoke, those three together are going to be a little powerhouse, and I'm going to be taking them with me. I've got a couple of trips planned. I'm going to be taking them with me, so I can't wait. What about Mal? You've got the Ambient. Are you looking forward to syncing them together, getting it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I haven't really used it a huge amount. I feel like it's a bed, and you have to, put other musical stuff on top of it, and so, I think this will work. Having the two together,
Is it the Ambient Zero that has the spa mode? Which, if you put spa mode on, it plays through every pattern that's in the machine as like one long continuous thing. So they call it spa mode because it's like the music you get at these spas, and you just set it going, and it just goes on and on and on and on until you tell it to stop, which I thought was quite a cool thing. Nick was asking, is it real, Robbie, that Parcel Fast will not try and scam you for import and tax? It is true, and they don't use Parcel Fast, Parcel Force to give them their proper name, but they use FedEx. And yes, it is true. Anything that that they sell now to the UK, shipping and taxes are all taken care of. So the price you see on the website is the price that you pay. And hopefully that's answered your question as well, Spaces Noise. In the UK and globally, it's FedEx. I do believe it is global, but certainly here in the UK, it is FedEx. So, and they're very good, in my experience. Anyway, there you go. Ambient Zero works amazingly via MIDI keys using the layers. So it's there you go. Don't just take my word for it. Can also thank Nick Howes. For gifting a ProSynth Network membership. And do I assume, therefore, that sitting underneath there, Ayame Khan, I hope I've said that correctly, was the beneficiary? I hope so. If not, thank you anyway, and thanks for that. Much appreciated. Matt Evans, who is still at home recovering from his appendectomy, which apparently was a bit of a mess. But he got sorted in the end. But he's resting and recuperating at home. So all the best to you, mate. And thank you for your wonderful donation. Right. So, yeah, that was the Sonicware Live and Evoke. You can go to sonicware.jp. I do believe they have a European website as well dedicated to continental Europe. But if you are, just to reiterate this, let me just throw this up on the screen. So for customers in the USA, they're saying the product is made in Malaysia and custom duties are currently exempt for orders of $800 or less. Order now before this changes. You get free shipping. In the UK, prices include VAT and custom duties and free shipping. Australia, you've not been forgotten about. Display prices are in Australian dollars and include GST. No custom duties on orders under 1,100 Australian dollars. Free shipping included. Customers in Canada, you're the only ones that GST or HST is not included in the price. No customs duties apply, but you also do get free shipping. And those of you in the European Union, prices do not include VAT or custom duties. They will be collected upon delivery according to your country's regulations. Isn't it a complicated world these days that we live in? Honestly, there was once a time not that long ago that everything just worked, and now it's all so complicated. But at least Sonicware are listening and they're doing something about it, so that's nice. So sonicware.jp, go and check that out. Check the videos on their YouTube channel. Right, I'm going to go to this one because I think this is going to interest Dan. And I don't know if Dan already knows about this, but I'm just going to play a brief clip from the promo video, which is a little long, so I'll just play the first bits. This is brand new from Expressive E. So beautiful as that is, go and watch the video because that whole piece is really nice. But this is Soliste, and this is brand new from Expressive E, and it is physically modelled violin, viola, and cello and double bass. There it is for you to look at there. So currently it's 179 euros, down from 200. I don't know why they put that there. What is that? 200 and something, 299 euros. So it's 179 at the moment. You play the bow. I think we sort of caught that from the video. The up and down movement on the key is the bow action, which I thought was very clever. These look incredibly and sound incredibly good. You can also buy them individually at 99 euros, although currently discounted to 59.40. But yeah, perfect with the Osmos, but you don't have to have the Osmos. You can use the Expressive E Touche as well, but you can also use any MIDI controller that is MPE ready, such as Ableton's Push 3, the Roly Seaboard, the Linstrument, the Arturia Polybrute 12, and various other MPE controllers. Your mileage may vary, as they say, because not all of these MPE controllers do things quite the same, although they mostly are. And I know Steve Elbows, if he's in the chat, is probably shouting at his screen at me right now saying they do this. But he's the guy to go to because he really has looked into this stuff. But the reason I mentioned earlier about this being quite specific to one of our number here on screen is that, Mr. Goldstein, you've just bought an Osmos. So
2 days ago, I have joined the Osmos Club. And
so what do you think about this?
Well, I saw this video yesterday. A friend of mine sent it to me. It's just beautiful, and it actually inspired me this morning. I just got the Osmos this week, and it's been a busy week. But I started playing through some of the string sounds that are sort of built in to the Osmos, and they're quite good as well. Yeah, the thing about the Osmos is I can tell immediately. It's one of these instruments that's going to take some time to be able to play it well. I think anyone can play it, but playing it well and getting a feel for the expression and all that, There's an art to it. So I have a feeling that as good as these string sounds are, it's going to take some effort to be able to play it, to the level that the demos in that video show it off. But I'd love to get there. I really want to spend some time this weekend with the Osmos, and but yeah, I'm excited. I played it a couple times. Our sound designer James Terrace has one, and he brought it so I could play it for a little while, and then I played it at NAMM, and it's just so cool. And I finally caved. I finally got one this week, so I am excited to explore it more.
Yeah. I'm going to go next to our silent member in the group. I'm going to spring this on him, Kent. You bought an Osmos. You were one of the first people to put money down on one.
Yes,
at the very get-go, when however many years ago that was, and you eventually got yours, and you didn't like it.
No.
Does hearing something like this make you regret passing it on?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you for why.
Yeah,
because
do.
I never bought it to be a kind of monophonic kind of machine. Right. Playing the Osmos in a shall we say, a sparse way, no big chords or anything like that, it's actually very good. But I've got that already with the Seaboard. I've got it with the Rise. But I can still play chords on the Rise and the Seaboard. But on the Osmos, no, it does not do it well. I could not get the touch required to make that work.
Yeah.
I could say I could blame the CS80 for that, because of the way you play the 80. But no, it didn't gel with me. There's nothing wrong with the machine. Don't get me wrong. The Osmos is a fantastic piece of kit, and now they've got all the firmware bits and pieces that they initially had. When I got mine, it was used to go at you when you turned it on sometimes, and you go, try again, and that's all settled. So it's not for everyone. If there is, do music shops still exist?
No.
If you can, if you could go to a music shop where they had an Osmos there, please, for the love of God, if you're thinking of buying one, try it. You might be surprised. You might go, oh yeah, or go, nah.
But of course, you don't need an Osmos for this particular collection of sounds.
Oh, agreed.
You can play this on your Rise or your Polybrute 12 there, because they both support MPE. I can't remember, the Montage 8 supports MPE as well, or is that just Poly 80? But anyway, you can avail yourself of these
Poly
sounds.
80.
Yeah, Poly 80, is it? Right.
Yeah, you can avail yourself of these sounds from somebody who does love cellos and violins and violas and so on and so forth.
Indeed, sir.
What did you think of this?
The instrument
to me
itself,
that physical modelling is there.
It's delicious. If anything, I would. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I would say that it was even more expressive than the Via harmonic stuff. But it was also the tone as well.
Yeah.
It didn't have too much of that. You know when you get some of these physical model things, or sometimes it's like sample based or whatever, but the particular areas on the keyboard where it's really quite sharp, and it's a little bit of an audio slap in the face, sort of like, oh, don't play around there. It's a bit, or you've got to go in and you've got to sort of like mix and EQ that particular area, sort of stuff to stop it from, being too much like, nails down a chalkboard sometimes.
Yeah.
But that seemed to be really quite nice.
I did like the sound of that.
Yeah, I think that was very, very good indeed.
Mal, you are the owner of a number of MPE controllers around your studio. This float your boat?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've been a Osmos user since the Kickstart. Waited 3.5 years for it to arrive. Thought it was never going to arrive. I've got a very low serial number, and I've absolutely had no problems with mine. I know people that have had stuck notes or broken keys. Touch aluminium and plastic, mine's been perfect. I mean, the trouble I have with the Osmos is I don't really like the internal sound engine.
Thank you.
know, I just don't like the sounds.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
didn't like any of them.
No, and it's getting better. They just released another 100 sounds, and some of those are usable. But I just think the sound engine isn't good. So, you know, fortunately, Expressive E have been releasing, you know, other software, and their noisy is pretty good, and so this is great. I think this is where it's going to go. It's going to be an MPE performance keyboard, and you're going to use software for the sounds. I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah, and because it's not at all easy to program.
No,
you know, is it the Egan matrix?
Yeah,
it's got quite a complicated.
And I mean,
learning
you know,
curve.
I'm a good friend of Rob Schwimmer. I don't know if anybody knows if you know him, but he's a fantastic thereminist, and he has a continuum, and amazing. When you see a professional, you know, performance musician play these things, you're like, oh God, I can never play it like that. But he gets great sounds out of the hack, and I don't know, it just doesn't sound the same on the Osmos.
I had to go on one of those continuums in Berlin at the Synthesizer Museum, and they got it hooked up to, and the name has completely escaped me. They're these resonator speakers that are kind of shaped like a. They're only about so big, but they're shaped like a piano, but they've got a resonator speaker in there.
Yeah.
And the sounds coming out of the continuum through that thing just sounded incredible.
Well, that's part of the Ons Martineau
that's
speaker
it.
systems.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And it just sounded incredible. But it was that surface that I just didn't. I was going to say didn't gel with, which should probably be a bit of a because it is very spongy.
I think this library is going to work really well with the Rise and with the Seaboard. For some people, you know, I keep looking, I keep wanting to love the Osmos, and I love the demos for it, but I'm just seeing the additional, you know, the way it plays. I'm not sure it's going to sit well with me, but I think this now gives me a very good reason to go and buy the Rise now. And I think this will work really well with the Rise, and or maybe with the Harpeggi. Not the Harpeggi. What's the
Hacken?
No, the oh God. Lots of pads. What?
Twiddling your fingers isn't helping.
Not the Linstrument.
The Linstrument.
Yes, another instrument. It's the
Linstrument. The Roger
Linstrument.
Linstrument.
That's the one. So, thank you. Yeah, welcome to the pro synth, the not very pro synth network.
Hey, what's that? What's that, Sonny?
Yeah, the Linstrument. So, I mean, that's another interesting controller for it. But I think
or
the
Rise, Ableton Push 3, which I still keep looking at and thinking.
I mean, to Ken's point about the Osmos and playing chords, I think the problem is that when you get something like this, your first reaction is just to go, "Oh, I can bend a note."
Yeah.
You know, and then when you're playing chords, you're actually really bending all the notes, so it just sounds out of tune.
All the notes you don't want to bend.
Yeah, so the thing is, you just got to, when you play it like that, you got to lock your fingers, and you get used to it in the end.
It's a style, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I found that with the Polybrute 12 because although it's not as detailed in its movements as the Osmos, the full touch system means that as soon as the keys start to move, things start happening, and you have to adjust ever so slightly. And it'll be more so with the Osmos. I imagine. I mean, I've played one or two at shows, and I've been very impressed with what I've heard and things that you're able to do with it. And I've just been sort of at the back of my mind thinking, maybe I'll pick up one of them, because they do a lot of reconditioned units. Because I guess a lot of people, aren't gelling with them, so they're sending them back. And
well, they had a lot of hardware issues.
They did, yeah. So I might pick one of those up for a reasonable discount. But there you go. That is Soliste. You can buy the whole package, or you can buy the individual instruments, and you don't need an Osmos. I think I'm going to buy this anyway, ahead of whatever, and maybe we'll be able to come back and have a look at it more closely in comparison with, say, something that is sample based, because that to me sounds like the physical modelling has just nailed those kind of
It's
instruments.
crossed into the sampling territory, isn't it?
It has. It really has.
Yeah.
And that might. I don't know. We've said this for many years that physical modelling might start to take over from sampling, and it never does. But
No.
yeah, who knows? We'll see. Right. So that's that. Let's talk drum machines, because I'm in real drum machine world the last few months, and this is something very new. If you went to NAMM this year, you would have seen this if you'd gone to the Deft Audio stand and met Andre and Joe. And this is the brand new product from Deft Audio and Joe Britt, and it's the Luma Mew module. Let me just bring this onto the screen. There was a video, but it's a very long video, and I just couldn't sort of snip enough out of it that was short enough to kind of show what it did. So you remember that they brought out the Luma 1, and you should, if you don't remember what the Luma 1 is, let me just refresh your memory. The Luma 1 is this beautiful, amazing recreation of the first Lin LM1 drum computer. There's a long story behind it. We won't go into the details here, but this is just a fantastic recreation that uses plenty of the old technology, but married up to some of the new technology that makes it more reliable, more accurate, and certainly you can swap parts from the new ones into the originals, and it's just amazing. $4,500 though, if you want one of these. It's 25 kilos in weight. So maybe you're looking for something a little different. Well, they've just brought out the Luma Mew, which is one channel from the from the LM1 or the Luma 1. I keep getting these things mixed up. This is the Luma Mew, so it's basically one voice, and it's Eurorack. So you can now have a Lin sound in your Eurorack, and it's using the same 8-bit Mew Law DACs. It's the lowest latency you could possibly get. I was talking to Joe about this week. He's super proud of it. They spent a lot of time getting this right. So if you go and flip this over to the rear, you will see that it has this little are they ZIF sockets, I think they're called. Yeah. And you have a chip in there which will have 8 drum sounds in there. So it comes with you can order it with the factory LM1 sounds built in, and you can then select which drum sound you want this particular module to make. They also provide a service where you can supply your own samples, and they'll make the chip for you for about $19. But you can also choose from their library of sounds as well, so you can have pretty much whatever you want in there. The other thing that they've brought out to coincide with this is the lovingly titled Luma Mew Reach Around. And basically what this does is it allows you to put the chip on the front of your Eurorack system, so you can swap out the chips without having to go around the back and do the reach around. So it's $49 to add that little functionality on there. But this is, there you go, that's what it looks like in situ with 3 modules and 3 reach arounds. I'm going to snigger every time I say that. But it's great. I mean, it's just having that that amazing Lin drum sound in your Eurorack. Now, obviously, I don't subscribe to Eurorack at all. It's not my thing, but I imagine that there are people out there that this might appeal to. Dan, Mal, are you Eurorackers?
No. I'm not. No, but I love a Lin drum. And,
yes, you do. Yes.
And if they made a larger modular version of this, that could be cool too.
Yeah, but I've seen demos of this where Andre's got like 3 of these modules, and you can change the drum sound on the module through CV. So you don't have to have like 8 to get 8 sounds. You can have maybe 3 or 4 and just swap the sounds via CV from your sequencer, which I think is very clever because it keeps the cost down, keeps the space down. I just think this is a really great way of taking that technology and making it available to another group of people that would do something slightly different with a Lin at a lot less cost and weight to the LM1.
I mean, it's like hire purchase. You could buy a module, one every 6 months. Build your own drum machine.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
What do you reckon, Andrew?
I think it's a great idea. You know, it's Euro has become a really big thing, and there's also the ability now to buy Euro rack boxes, into which you can insert these kinds of things. And then if you're not a Euro rack person, it doesn't matter. You can just get to it using any number of other keyboards like the Arturia stuff and trigger it. That means you've got all the benefits of Eurorack, being able to swap it out without having to invest a bazillion pounds in things you just look at and go, I don't know what it were, it how, yeah. So I think it's a really good idea. It's a very clever idea.
Yeah.
And it makes, rather than having to spend $4,500 or whatever it is, you can get $279. It's great. It's a great starting price for an LM1.
Yeah.
Drum
Thing
set.
is, Joe emailed me and he said, "Look, we finally released this, and they've got them. By the way, if anybody's interested in buying these, this is available to order and it will ship immediately. They have stock. They've got lots of stock. So they've taken their time. Apparently, it was Joe and Andre having a drink in the bar, just talking about what they could possibly do next. This came up, and it's taken quite a while to get where they've going. There's some challenges, but Joe said, "Do you want me to send you one?" And I'm like, "I love one, but I don't have Eurorack, and I have no interest in Eurorack, and I would break my own rules." So I said to him,
Could we get
"Thank
one?
you, but
Could we get one to Kent?
Kent doesn't have any Eurorack, do you?"
Not now.
You've got
No, it's all good.
not
No.
oh bugger.
Yeah.
Talking of Kent, I do have a question. May I?
Yes.
It relates to these two. So right at the beginning, we got terribly. I got terribly carried away, talking about the ODC 2800 and how wonderful it is to design sounds for, and blah blah blah. Completely ignored or forgot Kent. I'm just wondering: A, did you have a chance to play with it? And B, what do you make of the filter designs? Because I was just blown away by them.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. It's lovely sounds. Why? Well, yeah, it's beautiful.
I just wonder what you thought.
This is why
Well, look, having things like this come out, right? When people say to me, "So, what do you think?" And I think, I hope it means I don't have to repair any of the original ones anymore. Look, there's, this is immaterial, but on the white face, particularly the white face, on the white face, there are two screws that go through the base that hold the keyboard, the legs on the keyboard, down and together. And it doesn't matter what you do, when you've put it all together and screwed it all up, when you go to put these two screws through to screw it to the keyboard, the legs are not there anymore. And you have to take it all apart and move the legs and tighten them up, make sure they're roughly right, and then put it back in. And I had to make up a former that you put between the two bars, push them together to do up the bolts so it's all in place. Now, because this instrument's come along and it's covered the whole collection, it's great. It's fantastic. It means, the less I have to work on Odysseys. This is brilliant. This is what I love about all this. And very, very slowly, I'm getting less and less Odysseys, and I think that's a good thing. And also, the same with the LM, having this LM1 replacement. The LM1 was a shit build when it was new. Right? It was awful. And it would,
Man goes on,
if you could get it
Roger
to
on the
work-
show.
Okay, we go, Roger, mate, 3 days and pop, you know what I mean? But I mean, but it's the tech of the time and everything like that. And they didn't age well either. And it's brilliant. This stuff comes out. So now people can have that experience and go, well, when I get up in the morning, it will still be working.
Yeah.
And during this month, a portion of that will go to the Alan R. Perlman Foundation, which is
Exactly
great.
so.
And
Yeah.
you can donate a little bit more if you wish. Donate anyway.
But bringing this back on to the Luma Muse we were talking about,
It is
there
full.
are also other. So this is the EEPROM emulator that you can buy. There's the sound service that I mentioned, $19 to have your sounds burned on. And if you can't afford $4,500 for a Luma 1 pre-built, $2,200
Oh,
gets you a kitful.
that's interesting.
And I've seen one of these in the flesh. Our friend Mike Gorman has built one of these and brought it to Synthfest actually last year, and it's just as good. You just got to know what you're doing. So this is why I haven't bought one.
That explains it.
Yeah, there you go.
I had a phone call
also-
a few days ago about a guy asking me if could I build an LM1.
Oh, well, there you go.
And
That's
that's
what it is.
I think that's what it's about. Surely he doesn't want to
Apparently
build an original one.
It's a pretty simple, straightforward job as long as you get all the bits.
Oh, some people are just terrified of wires and things.
Yeah.
We're all different.
$19 to burn a ROM for you, though. That's just a ridiculously good price.
Yeah, and you can have any sound you want. Anyway, that is the Luma Mu, which is the module version of the Luma 1, or a Luma 1 voice. But there's also, there seems to be a glut, hasn't it? I mean, we had GeForce's Icon drum. We had the version 3 of Ali James Labs V Prom. We had the LM drum from Behringer. We've got the Luma 1. And now we have this from my friend. I can actually say this with all honesty. My friend, Steve Levine.
Hi, I'm Steve Levine. I'm very excited and very proud to announce a brand new plugin, Levine's Machines, which takes the very best elements of all the drum machines that I've used, modified and fiddled with over the years. And I've done this in partnership with Iconic Instruments. I've been a record producer since the late 70s, early 80s. And during that period I did Culture Club's 3 main albums, which had all the hits. Culture Club's first album, Kissing to Be Clever, almost every track on there used this drum machine in some way. Then there's a whole bunch of my career where I worked with quite a lot of UK electronic and dance acts. So groups like the UK Players, The Mood, David Grant. We had huge success. We had, I think, 3 top 10 records with him and a big selling album. All of those incorporated this drum machine to quite a degree. Apparently only 500 of these were ever made. So the number of records they appeared on versus the number of physical units they had is incredible. The Levine's Machines drum machine, the first of the Levine's Machines series, includes samples directly from this particular unit, which has real pop provenance being used on all those records. But this software is more than just those samples. It's an entire mixing environment and a full-featured sequencer, all in one, loaded with 20 of my custom-made mixing and pattern presets.
Anyway, we'll leave that there. It does go on a little bit longer than that. So this is Steve's drum machine. This is his LM1. It's been sampled. They've put it into this lovely software wrapper that looks a little bit like this. And it also they've also added a signal chain of processing so that you can get the sounds the same way that Steve got the sounds by processing his Lin through these various things. So you as full-featured sequencer, which is nice to see because it's there laid out all bare on the screen. You've got all the controls, all those sounds, and of course all of that processing in there as well. Keyboard mappings for general MIDI or for chromatic keyboards. We can all pretty much guess what a lot of these things are based on because they don't put the names on. And you can buy this right now for £79, dollars or euros, which is 20 off at the moment for one of those. Have we had too much now of Lin recreations, or is this an interesting spin? I know this is like the first in the series of these machines. He's going to take all these other drum machines and do similar sorts of things. But have we had enough of the Lin? Can we have enough of the Lin?
Well, maybe that is the general consensus, which is why he's added the mixing, that processing, the sound processing side to it as well.
Yeah,
which I don't think the other versions that are knocking about have.
I think
in
what's
full.
interesting is so much of what we remember and love about particular sounds and particular drum machines in records is the whole production that went with it, the console that went through, the compressor, the delay effects, etc. That's kind of why this is a good thing. This is a good thing because it's got his sound. And just to blow smoke up your arse a little here, I mean, it is why I so much love the effects package that comes with the 2800 as well. So yes, there has been a glut of different drum machines, LMs, etc. But this has got his processing, his post production tools in there as well. That's really good.
And it is a stamp of authority. Steve Levine is a superb producer. You've only got to listen to any of his output. Whether it's Culture Club, XTC, the Beach Boys, his sonic qualities are pretty excellent. I guess Dan, you've got the real deal behind you, though. That's a Lindrum? Is it?
That's a Lindrum. About 20 years ago, I had a chance to get an LM1 for pennies, and I wasn't into drum machines at the time, and I just didn't pursue it, and I've always kicked myself for that. So actually, a piece of software like that really, really strongly appeals to me, and that little gnawing bit of regret in the back of my head that, maybe I should have bought that when I had the chance.
How about you, Mal? Are you a drum machine freak?
I've bought and sold so many drum machines, and I think if I can do it in the box now, that's great. So this appeals to me. I write rock music, so rarely does it have drum machines. And I have a friend of mine, Bob, in the UK, and he has a Roland electric kit, and he does all my my drums for the songs that we do. So. But the whole point about this is that if you can buy something for $79 and it comes with, pop-friendly, radio-ready sounds, then why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's, and it looks great. I love the look of it. I mean, it sounds fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably buy this. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it is absolutely true that those records from the 80s, it's not just the drum machine, it's the production. If those effects are as good as they look, then that makes this a very cool product.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. That is Iconic Instruments and Steve Levine's Machines drum machine. Apparently there's going to be a whole series of these that Steve's been working with Iconic Instruments. So it's $79, euros, pounds at the moment, and then it's an extra 20 after the introductory offer finishes. We've got a few more minutes left, but I do want to mention this, which is a brand new service from Sound on Sound. Of course, Sound on Sound magazine still going strong. Probably one of the only ones that's still going strong in print. This is the latest issue, which has got a band called Ghost featured on the front. I have no idea who they are, but my son was very excited when that came through the letterbox. I'm having to protect that one. But they've just launched a brand new service called SOS for Artists: Create, Produce, Distribute, the all-in-one music subscription built for music creators. It starts at $8.25 a month. That's with an annual commitment, so whatever that is over the year. But you get a whole bunch of stuff to help you basically through that entire process. So you get a whole range of plugins, sample library credits, unlimited distribution through a distribution service. These are the plugins that you get. So you get copies of the light versions of Cubase and Ableton. You get things like Sonya Score's orchestra elements, Analog Lab intro, GeForce have thrown in Access, as well as a kind of cut down version of the Mellotron, or the Mtron, should I say. Arturia have thrown some stuff in there. IK Multimedia have got stuff in there. There's a whole bunch of things that you can have, UVI as well. And there's also this whole distribution and mastering, and you can release unlimited tracks to 150 platforms. And this is just one package. And we don't really have the time to go into this in great detail, but just very quickly around the room, starting off with Mr. Spong. Thoughts on this? It's just like a one-stop shop for creation and producing and distribution.
Good idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a good idea.
It's not bad, is it? I think this is one of the ways that Sound sort of stay relevant.
Yeah.
Mal,
well, like you say, it's very hard for a mag to survive these days, isn't it? Come
exactly.
On, let's face it. They're doing well.
What do you reckon, Mal? If you were young and impetuous,
I mean, I think this is a perfect situation for somebody starting out. I mean, this is great. I mean, I've got too many subscriptions, and I'm trying to cancel everything. So, But I think this works for somebody younger or somebody new to the music production. One-stop shop.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, what do you think?
It's interesting. There have been a few companies that have tried this sort of subscription plan, and I've seen a lot of backlash to subscriptions lately. I think it's a pretty cool idea, but it does seem like people have very strong opinions about subscriptions. So it'll be interesting to see if this succeeds.
Yeah. Andrew?
I think the problem with subscription-based stuff, this idea has been around for a while. Lots of people have done it, but you've never quite known who it is that's actually backing it. And we've, as Dan pointed out, we've seen a lot of backlash against this. I think what makes this really significant and unique is it is sound on sound. They're well recognised as being a voice of authority and within our industry, and if they're offering this, this is going to be a good thing. It's £99, I think, for the whole year, and it's not just for artists starting out. There's going to be artists of our sort of age who have collections of synths who've never released anything, and they don't know how to navigate this marketplace. Sound on Sound provides exactly. I think this is a really good idea. I'm
very clever thing.
I'm really pleased they've done it.
We'll be interested to hear from anyone that signs up for that to see what they think of it, in use, and certainly that kind of.
Does it come with the magazine?
I was just thinking the same thing. Does it come with?
Because for me, that's $69 straight away.
Yeah,
year,
absolutely.
so.
Yeah. What's included? Plugins? It doesn't say. No, I don't think it does.
Do you mean printed or just available digitally?
Or even just digitally?
Even a PDF,
yeah.
That would have been quite a good thing. I mean, they are very generous within the industry. They give out the magazine to people within the business for free, whether it's digital or physical. It'd be interesting to find. I will ask that question. But yeah, there we go. That is Sound on Sound for Artists. The website is sosforartists.com. Please go and check that out if you're interested. That brings us to the end of the show. Thank you everyone for watching. Just also to remind you before I forget, Jason Jervis is doing a very special Jim Jam or jamming in Jim Jams tomorrow morning UK time, 4 a.m. sunrise, because of course it's the solstice sunrise, so it's a special one. So he's going to be doing that from, I don't know whether he's going to be indoors or outdoors. It'd be lovely if he was outdoors. Go and check. Get Jervis is the name of the channel, so please do go and check that out. My friend Mickey in Ireland has accidentally bought a PSN t-shirt. He wants to know, will it make him so much more awesome than he already is? The answer is quite simply yes, of course. It just goes without saying. So there we go. So we've had Dan, we've had Mal, we've been speaking about the wonderful new instrument from Cherry Audio, which is the ODC 2800. It's a mere 59 of your US dollars if you buy direct through Cherry Audio, and if you do buy direct through Cherry Audio, they will donate. Is it till the end of the month, the donations? Yeah, so to the end of June, so you've got another 11 days. Oh no, hang on, 10 days, or 9.5, depending on where you are, to buy this and ensure that a donation is made on your behalf from Cherry Audio. You could also make a donation yourself from the website. It's a brilliant plugin. Congratulations to you for doing that, and hopefully it will benefit you and it will benefit Dina over at the foundation as well. Very last question. We obviously never ask you what's planning, what you got planned next, but what's coming next, chaps?
It
didn't work. It didn't work.
Sleep.
A synth?
Yes.
Yeah. We have another synth coming, and it's one of my personal favorites.
Cool.
It's cool.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Well, we will see you when that comes out. Steve wants to know, is the Cherry Pick 3 still going? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a Pick 3 and a Pick 6. You can get any 3 synths for $99 and any 6 for $149. It's a great deal.
Fantastic. Including if they buy ODC 2800 in that deal, will you still make a donation to the foundation? Does that work?
That is a very good question. Yes, I think so. Yeah, it's a sale.
There we go. Right, so I think that's everything that we've got there. Guys,
This show,
right,
by the way, this show has cost me 250 quid tonight.
how so?
I bought an Evoke.
Good man.
All right.
That's that's four
So
of us.
if Takahiro in Japan is watching this, see, it does work.
Yeah,
See,
you go,
it works.
I
We
will
make
be able
sales.
to afford my new sports car.
Yeah. By the way, massive thanks to
Is he
Takahiro for
Mexican?
getting this to
Sorry.
me.
Yeah.
Also,
Did you
can
not know?
I haven't done my weekly, or sorry, my Cherry Audio shout out to Robert, who does an amazing job, and I always do this because he does fantastic communications. He's sending me emails at God knows what time to make sure that we get the stuff in time, and he cross promotes our stuff on your socials and everything else. So Robert does a fantastic job, and he said, "Can he have a pay rise?" No, he didn't say that actually, but
It's
worth
even more than that. He to get this release out has been a lot of work for everyone, and he took a couple days off, well-deserved days off. So he's in the chat on his own time right now.
I know. It's
How
crazy.
dedicated he is. It's fantastic.
You won't get away. And message from Dina, by the way. Thank you to Cherry Audio, to Process that way, and all our supporters. There we go.
We love
Hopefully,
you, Dina.
we'll make a difference. Gentlemen, thank you as always. We look forward to having you back whenever that thing comes out. That cool synth that is one of Dan's favourites. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And that pretty much is everything that we've got time for. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Don't forget there are loads of other channels out there. You've got Ramsey tomorrow, you've got Andy Synchrotron. Don't forget 4 a.m. if you're awake for the solstice thing. We've got Jervis. You've got I think Jamie's taking a week off this Sunday, so you can have a little bit of a relaxing Sunday afternoon, evening. But there's lots of stuff out there, and I assume that Jason will also be doing his late night Sunday show as well. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mal. And thank you to everyone for watching. As always, don't forget to hit that like button, give us a subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, because we'll have extra content hopefully coming soon. And we will see you all same time, same place next week. Ta-ra!
Everyone.
Bye.